3 weeks had passed since Jiho first invited Vela to lunch. In that time, everything had changed for her. She no longer stood alone at the edge of the recreation dome. She no longer ate by herself in quiet corners. The human students had welcomed her into their group, and slowly Vela was learning what it meant to have friends. Every day, she met Jiho and the others for lunch. Sometimes they studied together in the library. Other times, they just talked about nothing important, sharing stories and jokes. Vela learned that humans laughed a lot, even at things that were not particularly funny. They found joy in small moments, and they shared that joy freely with anyone around them. But not everyone at Harmony Station was happy about this new friendship. Some students whispered when they saw Vela walking with the humans. Others made comments that they thought she could not hear. The most common thing they said was that humans would befriend anything, even species that could not properly communicate. Vela tried not to let it bother her. She had friends now, real friends who cared about her. That should have been enough, but the words still hurt sometimes, especially late at night when she was alone in her room. One afternoon, Vela was in the central plaza of the station, waiting for Yuna. They had planned to work on a biology project together. The plaza was a large open area where students gathered between classes. It had gardens with plants from different worlds and comfortable seating areas. Vela stood near one of the gardens, admiring a plant with purple leaves that reminded her of something from home. She was so focused on the plant that she did not notice the group of Corthan students approaching until they were already surrounding her. Grath was the largest of them. He was a Corthan male in his final year at the academy. His species looked like giant bears with thick fur and powerful bodies. He stood at least 2 meters tall, towering over Vela's smaller frame. "So you are the Telrin that the humans are so interested in," Grath said. His voice was deep and rumbling. He did not sound angry, but he did not sound friendly either. Vela's wings pressed flat against her back. She recognized this as a dangerous situation. "My name is Vela," she said quietly, trying to keep her voice steady. "Vela," Grath repeated as if testing the name. "Tell me, Vela, what makes you think you belong here at Harmony Station?" "I was accepted by the Galactic Council," Vela answered. "The same as everyone else." Another Corthan, a female named Rona, stepped closer. "But you cannot even communicate properly. You just stand around silent and strange. You make everyone uncomfortable." "That is not true," Vela said, though her voice was getting smaller. "I can communicate. I am talking to you right now." "Through a translator," Grath pointed out. "And even then, we cannot tell what you are really thinking or feeling. Your kind releases chemicals that we cannot understand. It makes you seem false, like you are hiding something." More students had started to gather around, watching the confrontation. Some looked uncomfortable. Others seemed curious to see what would happen. But no one stepped in to help. "I am not hiding anything," Vela said. Her wings were trembling now, a sign of fear that only another Telrin would understand. "My people communicate differently, but that does not mean we are dishonest." "Then explain yourself," Grath demanded. His voice was getting louder, attracting even more attention. "If you deserve to be here, prove it. Make us understand you without your translator. Show us what you really are." Vela felt tears starting to form in her large eyes. This was exactly what she had feared when she first came to Harmony Station. She had known that some species would not accept her. She had known that being different would be used against her. "I cannot," she whispered. "You do not have the biology to sense pheromones. You cannot hear the frequencies I produce. It is not my fault that you cannot understand." "Then maybe you do not belong here," Grath said coldly. "Maybe the Telrin were accepted into the Galactic Council too soon. Maybe you need more time to evolve before you can truly be part of our society." Vela felt herself starting to shut down, the way she had in her first weeks at the station. Her wings were completely flat now. Her bioluminescence had faded to almost nothing. She was becoming invisible again, pulling into herself where at least she was safe. She was about to leave, to run away to her room and hide, when a voice cut through the crowd. "That is enough." Jiho pushed through the circle of students. He was not as big as the Corthans, not as physically impressive, but there was something in his posture, in the way he carried himself, that made the larger alien step back slightly. He walked right up to Grath and looked him in the eye. "You want to talk about belonging? Let me ask you something. What gives you the right to decide who belongs and who does not?" Grath looked down at the human with surprise. "I am simply stating the obvious. Your friend cannot communicate like the rest of us. Cannot communicate? Jiho's voice was calm but firm. She is communicating right now. She answered your questions. She explained her situation. Just because you cannot sense her pheromones does not mean she is not communicating. It means you are not listening properly. More humans were arriving now, drawn by the commotion. Suho and Nari pushed through the crowd. Minho, Jiho's friend, appeared with several other human students. They formed a loose circle around Vela, not aggressive but clearly protective. Yuna, who had finally arrived for their study session, stepped forward. As a xenobiology student, she had authority when it came to understanding different species. The Telrin communication system is actually more advanced than verbal speech in many ways, she said, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. They cannot lie with their pheromones. Every emotion they feel is honest and true. Can you say the same about your words, Grath? The Korthan looked uncomfortable now. The crowd was growing and public opinion seemed to be shifting. Nari, the diplomat student, added her voice. Every species in the Galactic Council was once considered unsuitable by someone. The Korthans were thought to be too aggressive when they first applied for membership. The Sylvians were considered too fragile. Even humans were rejected 3 times before finally being accepted. Being different does not mean being less. Minho spoke up, his voice carrying the authority of an older student. On Earth, we have a saying. A person who is kind to you but rude to others is not truly kind. We judge people not by how they treat the powerful, but by how they treat those who cannot fight back. What does it say about you, Grath, that you attack a first-year student who has done nothing wrong? The watching students began to murmur. Some were nodding. Others looked ashamed that they had stood by and watched without helping. Grath's fur bristled with anger, but he had no good response. The humans had outmaneuvered him socially and everyone knew it. Then Vela did something that surprised everyone, including herself. She stepped forward, moving past Jiho to face Grath directly. Her wings slowly unfolded, spreading wide. They began to glow with bioluminescence, creating patterns of light that pulsed with her emotions. You say I cannot communicate, Vela said, her voice stronger now. You say you cannot understand me. But the truth is that you have not tried. You see someone different from you, and instead of trying to understand, you decide we are the problem. She released a wave of pheromones, strong enough that even species without the ability to sense them felt something. It was like a pressure in the air, a presence that could not be ignored. My people feel just as deeply as yours, Vela continued. We love, we fear, we hope, we dream. We laugh and we cry. We are not less than you. We are just different. And if you cannot see that, if you cannot make the effort to understand, then perhaps the problem is not with me. Perhaps it is with you. The plaza was completely silent. Vela's wings were blazing now, showing complex patterns of determination, fear, and courage all mixed together. Most of the students could not understand the patterns, but they could see the beauty and complexity of them. Finally, Grath stepped back. He did not apologize, but he did not continue his attack either. We will see, he said gruffly. Time will tell if you truly belong here. He and his friends left, pushing through the crowd. Slowly, the other students began to disperse as well, talking quietly among themselves about what they had witnessed. But some students did not leave. A small crystalline being approached Vela shyly. I am Kira, she said, her voice chiming like bells. I have been alone here too. My people communicate through light refraction. Most students find it confusing. Would you mind if I sat with you at lunch sometime? A methane-breathing student in an environmental suit spoke up through his suit's speakers. I am Oren. I would like to join as well, if that is okay. It is hard to make friends when you cannot breathe the same air as everyone else. Jiho looked at Vela with a smile. Looks like the coalition corner is getting bigger. Vela's wings shimmered with rainbow colors, and for the first time since the confrontation started, she felt safe again. She had found her voice, and she had found her people. Not just humans, but anyone who knew what it felt like to be different and alone. But I already know what they will say. This is exactly the kind of innovation the galaxy needs. Vela's wings spread wide. Glowing with the innovation competition ceremony was held in the Grand Hall of Harmony Station. The hall was massive, with a domed ceiling that showed the stars beyond. Hundreds of students filled the seats, while faculty members sat in special sections along the sides. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing details about each competing project. Vela sat with her team in the front row, her wings folded nervously against her back. She wore a small version of their universal empathy translator on her uniform. Around her, soft colors glowed in the air, visible to anyone watching. Right now, those colors showed nervousness, excitement, and hope all mixed together. Jiho sat beside her, occasionally glancing over to check how she was doing. He had learned to read her wing positions over the past months. Right now, they were held in what he called her worried position. He reached over and gently touched the armrest between them, a small gesture of support. On Vela's other side, Yuna was reviewing notes on her datapad, making sure she had all the technical details ready if the judges asked questions. Suho was bouncing his leg nervously. Nari sat perfectly still, using her diplomat training to appear calm even though she was just as nervous as the others. Minho and Kira completed their team, both of them watching the stage where the dean was preparing to speak. The competition had been intense. 15 teams had entered, each with impressive projects. One team had created a new type of engine that used less fuel. Another had designed a better recycling system for space stations. A third had developed improved medical scanners that worked on multiple species. The Coalition Corner's Universal Empathy Translator was the only project focused on social connection, rather than technology or efficiency. Some students had whispered that it was not practical enough to win. Others said it was too simple, too focused on feelings rather than real problems. But then something had happened over the past week. Students had started requesting access to the device. They wanted to use it in their dorm sections, in study groups, in social spaces. The dean had approved a limited rollout, and the results had been remarkable. Conflicts that had been brewing for months suddenly resolved when students could see each other's true emotions. Study groups became more effective when members could sense when someone was confused or frustrated. The recreation dome, where Vela had once stood alone, was now filled with mixed-species groups playing together. Most importantly, students who had been isolated were finding friends. The device had revealed something important. There were far more lonely students at Harmony Station than anyone had realized. Many of them had been hiding their feelings, pretending to be fine while suffering in silence. Now their emotions were visible, and others were reaching out to help. The dean stepped up to the podium, and the hall fell silent. She was wearing formal robes that shimmered with her species' traditional colors. Her feathered crest was raised high, a sign of importance. "Welcome to the annual innovation competition," she began. "Today we celebrate the creativity, intelligence, and hard work of our students. Each project represents countless hours of effort and dedication." She went through the list of competitors, describing each project and its potential benefits. The audience applauded politely after each one. Finally, she reached the last project. "Our final entry comes from a mixed-species team that calls themselves the Coalition Corner. Their project is the Universal Empathy Translator, a device that makes non-verbal communication visible to all species." Holographic displays showed footage of the device in action. Students throughout the hall watched as emotional auras appeared around beings in the videos. They saw pheromone clouds become visible colors. They saw light patterns get translated into universal symbols. They saw the hidden emotions of species that had always seemed cold or distant. "This project represents something unique," the dean continued. "It does not solve a mechanical problem or improve efficiency. Instead, it addresses the most fundamental challenge of any multi-species society. It helps us understand each other." She paused, looking directly at the Coalition Corner team. The judges were unanimous in their decision. The winner of this year's innovation competition is the Universal Empathy Translator. The hall erupted in applause. Students stood up, cheering and clapping. Vela's wings spread wide in shock, glowing with so many colors at once that it looked like a rainbow explosion. The device around her showed emotional text scrolling rapidly. Joy, disbelief, gratitude, pride, love. The team made their way to the stage, and Vela felt like she was floating. Jiho walked beside her, grinning so wide his face hurt. The others were equally stunned and happy. The dean presented them with a holographic trophy and a certificate. But then she made another announcement that made the hall go completely silent. "There is more news," she said. "The Galactic Council has been informed of this project. They were so impressed that they have requested a demonstration. If approved, the Universal Empathy Translator will be deployed at diplomatic stations throughout the galaxy." Vela could not breathe for a moment. Her wings trembled. This was bigger than winning a competition. This was a chance to help billions of beings across the galaxy understand each other better. But the Dean was not finished. The Council has also made a request. They want Vela, as the first Telran to participate in this kind of cross-species collaboration, to speak at the next Council session. They want to hear her perspective on interspecies understanding. All eyes turned to Vela. She stood on the stage, suddenly aware that hundreds of students were watching her. The device she wore showed her emotions clearly. Surprise, fear, and uncertainty mixed with hope. The Dean smiled gently at her. You do not need to answer now, but the Council believes your voice is important. You have experienced isolation and connection. You understand both sides. Would you be willing to share that experience with the galaxy? Vela looked at her friends. Jiho nodded encouragingly. Yuna gave her a thumbs up, a human gesture Vela had learned meant support. The others all showed their own signs of encouragement in their species' traditional ways. Taking a deep breath, Vela stepped forward to the microphone. Her wings spread slightly, showing determination. I will do it, she said, her voice trembling but clear. If my experience can help others who feel alone, then I must speak. The applause that followed was deafening. But Vela barely heard it. She was thinking about a day months ago when she had stood at the edge of the recreation dome, watching others play and believing she would always be an outsider. She was thinking about the moment Jiho had walked up to her, with nothing but a smile and an invitation. After the ceremony, there was a celebration in the cafeteria. The coalition corner was packed with students wanting to congratulate the team. Even Grath appeared, offering formal Korthan congratulations and asking if he could help distribute the devices to other students. Later, when the crowds had thinned and most students had gone to bed, the core team sat together in their usual spot. Vela's wings were tired from being spread in joy all day, but she was too happy to care. I cannot believe this is real, she said quietly. Months ago, I thought about leaving Harmony Station. I thought I had made a mistake coming here. Now you have changed the galaxy. Yuna finished for her. Do you realize what this means? Species that have been isolated for centuries might finally be understood. The universal empathy translator could prevent conflicts, build friendships, save lives. Kira's crystalline body glowed with warm light. You saved me, she said. Before I found this group, I thought I would spend my entire time at the academy alone. Now I have friends I never dreamed possible. Oren's voice came through his suit warmer than the mechanical tones usually suggested. We all saved each other. That is what makes this special. Minho raised his drink. To the coalition corner, to friendship across species, to understanding. They all raised their drinks and echoed his words. To understanding. Jiho looked at Vela and she looked back at him. No words were needed. The device around her showed everything she felt. Gratitude deeper than any ocean, friendship stronger than any metal, and joy brighter than any star. Thank you, she said to Jiho, for that first day, for walking up to me when no one else would, for giving me a chance. Jiho smiled his characteristic warm smile. On Earth we have a saying, be the change you want to see in the world, or in this case the galaxy. You did not need me to change anything, Vela. You just needed someone to see you. And once we saw you, once we really understood who you were, it was impossible not to care. Suho leaned back in his chair. You know what the funny thing is? We humans were told we were too emotional, too quick to bond with others. Other species thought it was a weakness. But it turns out that ability to connect, to feel empathy even across species lines, that is our strength. That is what we bring to the galaxy, Nari nodded. Every species brings something unique. Telran bring emotional honesty. Korthans bring strength and loyalty. Sylvians bring grace and wisdom. Humans bring the ability to bridge gaps, to see past differences and find common ground. Together, we are stronger than any of us could be alone. As they sat together, talking and laughing late into the night, other students walked pale. The human section of the cafeteria had changed over the past few weeks. It was no longer just for humans. Students from different species now filled the tables, all of them drawn together by one thing. They were the ones who did not quite fit in with their own kind, or who had struggled to find their place at Harmony Station. Vela sat at what they jokingly called the coalition corner, surrounded by her growing circle of friends. Kira, the crystalline being, sat on her left, her body catching the light and splitting it into beautiful rainbow patterns. Oren, the methane breather, sat across from her in his environmental suit. Several human students filled the other seats, including Jiho, Yuna, Suho, Nari, and Minho. They were working on a problem. The annual innovation competition had been announced, and they wanted to enter as a team. The competition required students to create something that would benefit the entire station. Winning teams had their projects considered for wider use across all Galactic Council facilities. The problem is clear, Yuna said, spreading several data pads across the table. We have thousands of students from hundreds of species all trying to live and learn together. But communication gaps create misunderstandings and isolation. We saw this with Vela, and we know it happens to many others. Kira's body flashed with soft light, her way of showing agreement. When I first arrived, I tried to communicate with other students using my light patterns. They thought I was just decorative. They did not realize I was trying to talk to them. Oren's voice came through his suit's speakers. I face the opposite problem. My suit makes everything I say sound mechanical and cold. People think I have no emotions because they cannot hear the natural tones of my voice. Jiho had been thinking about this problem for days. As an engineering student, he loved solving puzzles. And this was the biggest puzzle he had faced. How do you help different species understand each other when their biology makes it nearly impossible? What if, Jiho said slowly, we could make nonverbal communication visible to everyone? The table went quiet as everyone turned to look at him. Explain, Yuna said, leaning forward with interest. Jiho started sketching on his datapad. Vela communicates with pheromones that most species cannot sense. Kira uses light patterns that look random to those who do not understand the language. Oren's emotional tones are hidden by his environmental suit. But what if we created a device that could translate all of these things into something everyone can understand? Like a universal translator, but for nonverbal communication? Nari asked. Exactly, Jiho said, getting excited now. His hands moved quickly as he drew. We already have translators for spoken language. But we do not have anything for body language, chemical signals, or visual communication that operates outside normal speech. Yuna grabbed the datapad and started adding notes. We could use biosensors to detect pheromones and display them as visible colored auras around the person. Different emotions would show as different colors. And I could help program the light pattern recognition. Kira chimed in, her body flashing with excitement. My people have detailed libraries of visual communication methods. We could teach the device to recognize and translate them. Suho, the pilot student, jumped in. We could add haptic feedback too. Small vibrations that let people feel the emotional content even if they cannot see or smell it. That would help species with different sensory capabilities. The group worked through lunch and well into the afternoon, sketching designs and arguing about technical details. Other students watched them with curiosity, wondering what had the coalition corner so animated. Minho, who had been quiet while the others talked, finally spoke up. This is good. This is really good. But we need to test it properly. Vela, would you be willing to be our first test subject? Vela's wings fluttered with nervous excitement. Of course. If this works, it could help so many others like me. Over the next 3 weeks, the team worked almost non-stop. Jiho led the engineering efforts, building the physical device. Yuna handled the biological aspects, making sure the sensors could detect the right chemical compounds. Kira programmed the visual recognition software. Minho wrote the code that brought it all together. Suho and Nari worked on the user interface, making sure it was easy to understand. And Vela helped with everything, offering insights into Telran communication and testing each new version of the device. She taught them the meaning of different pheromone combinations and wing patterns. She explained the subtle differences between emotions that seemed similar but were actually quite distinct. Finally, they had a working prototype. It looked like a small disc that could be worn on clothing or attached to a wall. When activated, it projected a gentle field of light around any being within range. They decided to test it in a quiet study room first, with just their core team present. Vela stood in the center of the room, nervous but hopeful. The others activated the device and watched. Immediately, a soft blue glow appeared around Vela, with streaks of yellow running through it. The device's display screen showed text. Subject feeling, nervousness mixed with hope and excitement. It works, Jiho whispered, staring in amazement. Vela's wings spread slightly and the colors changed. The blue deepened while golden light burst through like sunshine. The display updated. Subject feeling, joy and pride. Yuna had tears in her eyes. Vela, we can see what you are feeling. Not just read it on a screen, but actually see it. It is beautiful. They spent the next hour testing different emotional states. Vela felt sadness and dark blue clouds appeared around her. She felt anger and red sparks flashed through the aura. She felt love for her friends, and the entire room seemed to glow with warm pink and gold light. But the real test came when they took the device to the central plaza. They set it up quietly in one corner and activated it without announcing what they were doing. Students walked past, going about their normal activities. Then people started to notice. A group of Corthan students stopped and stared as they saw emotional auras appearing around other students. A Sylvian pointed in wonder at the colors surrounding her friends. Finally able to see what they were feeling, Grath, the Corthan who had confronted Vela weeks earlier, happened to be walking through the plaza. He stopped when he saw the device and the colors it was projecting. He watched as Vela talked with Jiho, her aura glowing with warm, friendly colors. Slowly, Grath approached. Vela saw him coming and her aura immediately shifted, dark colors of fear mixing with her usual warm tones. The device display showed subject feeling, fear, caution, but also determination. Grath stared at the display, then at Vela. For the first time, he could see what his confrontation had done to her. He could see that she still felt afraid of him, even though she was trying to be brave. I did not know, he said quietly. When I spoke to you before, I did not realize. Vela's wings folded slightly. Her aura showed continued nervousness, but also something else. Forgiveness, understanding. The display updated accordingly. You could not see, Vela said simply. None of you could. That was the problem. Grath touched his chest in a Corthan gesture of apology. I was wrong. I judged you without understanding you. I am sorry. As Vela's aura shifted to show acceptance and relief, other students began to gather. They wanted to know what the device was, how it worked, if they could try it. Word spread quickly through the station. By evening, there was a crowd of students in the plaza, all watching as the universal empathy translator displayed the hidden emotions of everyone within range. They saw how a quiet Sylvian student was actually bursting with happiness. They saw how a loud Corthan was hiding deep sadness. They saw the truth that words often hid. An announcement came over the station's communication system. The dean wanted to see the Coalition Corner team in her office immediately. They looked at each other nervously. Were they in trouble? Had they done something wrong by using the device in public? They gathered their equipment and headed to the administration building. The dean's office was on the top floor, with windows that looked out at the stars. She was a Delphon, a species that resembled tall, elegant birds with feathered crests. Sit down, the dean said, gesturing to chairs. Her voice was neutral, giving nothing away. The team sat with Vela's wings pressed nervously against her back. Jiho reached over and gently touched the table near her hand, offering silent support. The dean looked at each of them in turn, then finally spoke. What you created in the plaza today has caused quite a stir. Students are talking about nothing else. Faculty members have been calling my office non-stop. We are sorry if we violated any rules, Minho said quickly. We should have asked permission first. No, the dean said, and for the first time she smiled. You should not be sorry. What you created is remarkable. In my 20 years as dean of this academy, I have never seen students from so many different species communicate so effectively in such a short time. She pulled up a holographic display showing footage from the plaza. Look at this. Students who have never spoken to each other are having conversations. Species that typically avoid each other are making friends, all because they can finally see beyond the words. The dean leaned back in her chair. The innovation competition judges want to see your device tomorrow. Jiho walked through the corridors of Harmony Station with Vela beside him. He kept talking about simple things, trying to make her feel comfortable. He could tell she was nervous. Even though he did not understand Telran body language perfectly, he had learned to read the small signs that most species showed when they were uncomfortable. As they walked, Jiho thought about his own first days at the academy. It had been hard. Many species looked at humans and saw something unpredictable. Earth had only joined the Galactic Council 50 years ago, which was very recent in galactic terms. Some species had been part of the Council for thousands of years. To them, humans were the new kids who did not quite fit in. Jiho remembered standing alone in the cafeteria, holding his tray of food and looking for a place to sit. Other students had avoided making eye contact. Some had even moved their bags onto empty seats when they saw him coming. It had hurt in a way that was hard to explain. Then Minho had found him. Minho was a year older and had already learned how to navigate the social world of Harmony Station. He had walked right up to Jiho, introduced himself in Korean, and invited him to sit with the other human students. That simple act of kindness had changed everything. Minho had told him something important that day. Humans stick together, he had said, but we also help others who need it. That is what makes us human. Now, looking at Vela walking silently beside him, Jiho understood what Minho had meant. It was not just about helping other humans. It was about recognizing when someone needed a friend and choosing to be that friend. They entered the cafeteria, a huge space divided into different sections for different species. Each section served food that matched the biology and culture of particular groups. The human section was in the far corner, and Jiho could already see his friends sitting at their usual table. "That is them," Jiho said, pointing. "The tall guy with the loud laugh is Suho. He is training to be a pilot. The girl with short hair is Yuna. She studies xenobiology, which means she learns about different alien species and how they live. And the one waving at us right now is Nari. She is studying to be a cultural diplomat." Vela looked at the three humans at the table. They were all looking back at her with curiosity, but not the uncomfortable kind she was used to. They seemed genuinely interested. As they approached, Suho stood up and pulled out a chair. "You must be the new friend Jiho was talking about," he said with a big smile. "Please sit down. We saved you a good spot." Vela hesitated for just a moment, then sat down carefully, her wings folded neatly against her back. The chair was designed to accommodate different body types, so her wings fit comfortably through the special openings in the back. Yuna leaned forward with bright, interested eyes. "You are Telrin, right? I have been reading about your species in my xenobiology classes. Your people are fascinating." "You have?" Vela's voice was quiet, almost surprised. "Oh yes," Yuna said enthusiastically. "Your species has one of the most complex communication systems in the known galaxy. The way you use pheromones and subsonic frequencies to convey emotion and meaning is incredible. I wrote a paper about it last semester." Vela's wings twitched slightly. It was the first time someone had talked about her people in a positive way since she arrived at the station. Usually when others mentioned the Telrin, they talked about how difficult it was to understand them or how uncomfortable they felt around them. Nari, the diplomat student, joined in. "I would love to learn more about Telrin culture. In my classes, they teach us that understanding different cultures is the key to peace in the galaxy, but they do not teach us enough about newer species like yours." Suho pushed a menu screen toward Vela. "But first, food. You must be hungry. The human section has food from Earth, but we can also order from other sections if you prefer something else." For the next hour, Vela experienced something she had not felt since leaving her homeworld. She felt included. The humans asked her questions, but not in an interrogating way. They were genuinely curious about her life, her world, her experiences. They laughed at her stories and shared their own. They made sure she had enough food and that she was comfortable. At one point, Yuna brought up something that made Vela's wings flutter with excitement. "I read that humans have something called a vomeronasal organ," Yuna said. "It is also called Jacobson's organ. Most species in the galaxy lost theirs millions of years ago as they evolved, but humans kept a small one." "What does it do?" Nari asked. "It detects certain chemicals in the air," Yuna explained. "In humans, it is not very strong anymore, but it still works a little bit. And the interesting thing is," she looked at Vela, "humans might be able to sense Telrin pheromones on a subconscious level." Vela sat up straighter. "Really?" "It is just a theory," Yuna admitted. "But it would explain why humans often report feeling comfortable around Telrin, while other species feel uneasy. Other species cannot detect the pheromones at all, so they just sense something they cannot identify, which makes them nervous. But humans might actually be picking up on the emotional content without realizing it." Jiho looked at Vela with interest. "Is that why I felt like you were sad when I saw you in the recreation dome?" "I could not explain it, but I just knew." Vela's wings suddenly spread out a little and began to glow with soft colors. The humans watched in wonder as patterns of light blue and warm yellow moved across the translucent surface of her wings. "That is beautiful," Nari whispered. Vela folded her wings back quickly, suddenly embarrassed. I am sorry. I did not mean to— No, Una said quickly. Do not apologize. That was amazing. What does it mean? Vela hesitated, then decided to trust them. The colors show emotion. On my world, everyone can see them and understand. Here, most people do not even notice. The blue means relief and the yellow means happiness. I am showing both because— She paused, trying to find the right words. Because for the first time since I came here, I feel like someone can actually see me. The table went quiet for a moment. Then Suho reached over and gently patted the table near Vela's hand, careful not to touch her directly without permission. We see you, he said simply. And we are glad you are here. The conversation continued, flowing naturally from one topic to another. Suho told a funny story about a training exercise that went wrong. Nari talked about a diplomatic incident between two species that happened because of a misunderstanding about food. Jiho described his latest engineering project. And then Suho had an idea. Hey, I have some music on my datapad. Want to hear some Earth music? I have some Korean traditional music mixed with modern sounds. It is pretty cool. He played a song that started with the sound of traditional Korean drums, then blended into electronic beats. The melody was both ancient and modern at the same time. Vela listened carefully, her head tilted to one side. Then, without thinking about it, she began to vibrate her wings in a specific way. A harmonic sound joined the music, blending with it perfectly. The humans stared in amazement as Vela's wings created sounds that seemed to dance with the melody. When the song ended, everyone at the table burst into applause. People from nearby tables looked over, curious about what was happening at the human table. That was incredible, Jiho said. You created music with your wings. Vela's wings glowed with multiple colors now, swirling patterns of joy and pride. On my world, we make music together this way. I have not done it since I left home. I did not think anyone here would want to hear it. Are you kidding? Suho said. That was the coolest thing I have seen all month. We should do this again. Maybe we can create some kind of Telrin human music collaboration. As they talked and planned and laughed together, Vela felt something shift inside her. The heavy weight of loneliness that had been pressing on her for weeks was starting to lift. She was not completely comfortable yet. Everything was still new and a little bit scary. But for the first time, she had hope. When lunch ended and it was time to go to afternoon classes, the humans all exchanged contact information with Vela. They made plans to meet again the next day. As they were leaving, Vela did something that surprised even herself. She made a high-frequency trill, a sound that most species could not hear. It was the Telrin equivalent of laughter, a sound of pure happiness. Jiho did not hear it, but he saw the way her wings shimmered with rainbow colors, and he understood. He smiled back at her, and in that moment, Vela knew she had found something precious. She had found friends who would see her, truly see her, for exactly who she was. The recreation dome was filled with noise and laughter. Vela stood at the edge of it all, watching. She had been standing there for almost an hour now, just like yesterday, and the day before that. Her large eyes tracked the movements of different alien students as they played their games. The Korthan students, who looked like giant bears standing on two legs, were throwing a glowing ball to each other. Every time someone caught it, the others would roar with joy. The Sylvian students floated in their special water suits, moving together like dancers. They made beautiful patterns in the air. Vela's wings twitched slightly against her back. She wanted to join them. She wanted to feel what it was like to play with others, to hear them laugh because of something she did. But every time she had tried to approach a group, the same thing happened. They would look at her, smile politely, and then make excuses. They had to study. They had another game planned. They were just finishing up. She knew what the real reason was. She made them uncomfortable. The Telrin people were new to the Galactic Council. Vela was the first of her kind to attend Harmony Station, the big school floating in space where young aliens from different worlds came to learn. Her people communicated in ways that others could not see or hear. They released special chemicals that carried emotions. They made sounds too high for most ears to catch. To other species, the Telrin seemed cold and emotionless because they could not understand these hidden signals. Vela watched a group of students walk past her. One of them glanced in her direction, then quickly looked away. She felt her wings droop just a little. On her homeworld, that small movement would have told everyone around her that she felt sad. Here, no one noticed. No one understood. She touched her wings gently, trying to comfort herself the way her mother used to. But it did not help much when you were alone in a space station with thousands of students, and none of them could truly see you. The transparent dome above showed the stars beyond. Vela looked up at them. Her home world was out there somewhere so far away. She wondered if coming here had been a mistake. The Galactic Council had been so excited to accept the Telrin. They had said it was an honor. They had promised that Harmony Station would be a place where all species could learn and grow together, but they had not mentioned how lonely it would be. Burst of laughter pulled her attention back to the recreation area. A mixed group of aliens were celebrating something. She could not tell what game they were playing, but they all looked so happy. One student lifted another onto their shoulders. Others cheered and clapped. Vela felt a familiar ache in her chest. She released a small cloud of pheromones, the Telrin way of sighing. Of course, no one around her noticed. To them, she had done nothing at all. She was about to leave, to go back to her small room where at least the loneliness felt normal, when she noticed someone watching her. A human. Humans were interesting. Vela had learned about them in her orientation classes. They were one of the newer species to join the Galactic Council, only about 50 years ago. Many of the older species thought humans were strange. They were very emotional and made friends with almost anything. There were stories of humans adopting small creatures as pets, even talking to their machines as if the machines could understand. This human was a young male with dark hair and kind eyes. He wore the gray uniform of an engineering student. He stood about 20 meters away looking directly at her, not glancing and looking away like the others did, actually looking at her with focus. Vela's wings fluttered in confusion. Was something wrong? Did she have something on her uniform? She checked herself quickly but found nothing unusual. The human started walking toward her. Vela's wings pressed flat against her back, a defensive position. What did he want? Was he going to tell her she was not supposed to be here? Or maybe he would ask her to move because she was in the way. But when he reached her, he did something unexpected. He smiled. It was not the polite, uncomfortable smile she had seen from other students. It was warm and real. His whole face changed when he smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Hello," he said in Standard Galactic, the common language everyone used. "My name is Jiho. I have seen you standing here for a few days now." Vela did not know what to say. Her translator implant worked perfectly, but her voice felt stuck. She nodded slightly, a gesture she had learned from watching other species. Jiho tilted his head to one side, his smile never fading. "I was wondering if you would like to have lunch with me and my friends. We usually eat in the human section of the cafeteria. The food is pretty good, and we are always happy to meet new people." Vela's wings suddenly spread slightly, then folded again. It was an involuntary movement, a sign of surprise in her culture. Was he really inviting her to eat with his group? Just like that, without her having to ask or prove herself worthy? She started, her voice coming through the translator in Standard Galactic. "Why?" Jiho looked a bit confused by the question. "Why what?" "Why do you want me to join you?" Now it was Jiho's turn to look surprised. He seemed to think about it for a moment, then shrugged in that very human way. "Because you look like you could use some company. And because eating alone is not fun. Trust me, I know." There was something in his voice, something soft and understanding that made Vela believe him. He had been alone before, too. He knew what it felt like. Her wings began to shimmer very faintly, just the smallest hint of color at the edges. It was the beginning of hope, though Jiho would not know that. "I would like that," Vela said quietly. "Thank you, great." Jiho's smile got even bigger. He gestured for her to walk with him. "Come on, I will introduce you to everyone. They are all really nice." Well, Suho can be a bit loud, but that is just how he is. As they started walking together through the recreation dome, Vela noticed other students staring at them, a human and a Telrin walking side by side. It was an unusual sight. Some students whispered to each other. Others just looked confused, but Jiho did not seem to care about any of that. He kept talking, telling her about his friends, about the food in the cafeteria, about a funny thing that happened in his engineering class. He used his hands a lot when he talked, making gestures that helped explain his words. Vela listened carefully to everything he said. But more than his words, she noticed something else. The way he walked beside her, matching her pace, The way he angled his body slightly toward her, as if protecting her from the stares of others. The way his voice stayed warm and friendly. For the first time since arriving at Harmony Station, Vela felt something other than loneliness. It was small and fragile, but it was there, a tiny seed of hope that maybe, just maybe, she had found someone who could see her, really see her. Her wings gave the smallest shimmer of light, and though Jiho did not understand what it meant, he glanced at her and smiled again. Somehow he seemed to know that something good was happening. They walked together toward the cafeteria, and Vela thought that perhaps the stars had not sent her here by mistake after all.